Imagine being trapped upside down in a narrow tube of rock, your own body weight crushing your lungs and heart for more than a full day. That was the reality for 26-year-old John Edward Jones. But what happened next would turn the cave itself into his tomb, a decision that still sparks debate among cavers worldwide. The cave, once a beloved playground for explorers, would never be entered again. And the final resting place of a man who went in seeking adventure is now sealed behind concrete and rubble, a permanent monument to a single, irreversible mistake. The cave was called Nutty Putty, a hydrothermal cave system nestled west of Utah Lake in Utah County, Utah. Its name came from the peculiar brown clay that lined its walls, a soft, putty-like material that felt almost like wet sand between your fingers. That clay, rich in silicon dioxide, gave the cave a slippery, malleable character that made it both fun and treacherous. Discovered in 1960 by a man named Dale Green and his friends, who initially wanted to call it Silly Putty before settling on Nutty Putty, the cave quickly became a favorite destination for Boy Scout troops and university students. It was owned by the Utah School and Institutional Trust Lands Administration and managed by a local caving club called the Utah Timpanogos Grotto. The cave itself was modest by subterranean standards, about 1,400 feet or 430 meters of winding tunnels and narrow passages. Formed by superheated water pushing up through limestone, it was packed with mineral deposits and small rooms. One particularly notorious section was the Big Slide, a 45-degree slope that had already claimed several close calls. In fact, before 2009, 4 separate rescues had been conducted inside Nutty Putty to free trapped visitors. By 2006, the cave was drawing an estimated 5,000 visitors a year, many of whom entered late at night, ignoring basic safety measures. The rock had worn smooth from so much traffic, and experienced cavers had warned that a fatal accident at the Big Slide was only a matter of time. In response, a gate was installed on May 24, 2006, temporarily closing the cave to the public. Then, in early 2009, a new management system was set up with a registration process intended to improve safety. On May 18, 2009, Nutty Putty reopened its doors, or rather its gate, to adventurous souls. Among those who would later walk through that gate was John Edward Jones, a 26-year-old with a love for exploration. He came with a group of companions, all eager to experience the cave's tight squeezes and muddy slides. The date was November 24, 2009. John Edward Jones and 3 others had separated from their larger party. Their goal, to find a famous passage known as the Birth Canal. It was a narrow, tight crawlway that led to a turnaround point, a rite of passage for experienced cavers. It was tight but passable, provided you knew where it was. But in the dim light and confusion of the underground maze, Jones made a fatal misjudgment. Near a junction called Ed's Push, he noticed an unmarked passage. He believed it was the entrance to the Birth Canal. It was not. This passage led to a dead end. At the end of that dead end, a narrow vertical crevice descended into darkness. A slot only 10 inches by 18 inches, about 25 by 46 centimeters. For reasons that will never be fully understood, John Edward Jones decided to lower himself headfirst into that crevice. He squeezed in, the walls pressed against his shoulders, his chest, his hips, and then he dropped. He became stuck upside down, his legs dangling above him, his head and torso wedged in the narrow chimney. The space was so tight he could not move his arms to push himself back up. He was trapped 400 feet from the cave entrance, alone, inverted, in total darkness. Word of the accident spread quickly. Rescuers arrived, including experienced cavers and emergency personnel. They worked frantically to free him. A complex system of ropes and pulleys was rigged, designed to hoist Jones back up to safety. But when the system was tensioned, something went wrong. The pulley system failed. It snapped or slipped, and the sudden release of force jerked Jones back down into the hold, further wedging him. The rescue team had to start over, now with a man who was even more deeply stuck and whose condition was deteriorating. The human body is not designed to hang upside down for extended periods. The heart must work against gravity. Blood pools in the head, the diaphragm is compressed, and breathing becomes shallow and difficult. After hours in that position, organs begin to fail. John Edward Jones had been trapped for roughly 27 hours. At 11:56 p.m. on November 25, 2009, he was pronounced dead. The cause, cardiac arrest, brought on by the sustained pressure and physiological stress of being inverted. The rescue team faced a grim decision. The passage was too narrow for any recovery effort without risking further injury to themselves or damage to the body. The terrain was unstable, the clay slippery, and the logistics of extracting a deceased person from such a tight, inverted position were deemed too dangerous. They concluded that John Edward Jones could not be safely brought out. What happened next transformed the cave forever. The landowner, the Utah School and Institutional Trust Lands Administration, along with the Jones family, made an extraordinary agreement. Instead of trying to recover the body, they decided to seal the cave permanently, turning it into John Edward Jones's final resting place. Explosives were used to collapse the ceiling of the passage near Ed's Push, directly above where Jones lay. Then all remaining entrances to the cave were sealed with concrete. The once popular Nutty Putty was no more. The decision did not sit well with everyone. Some cavers protested. They argued that the cave was a natural resource that should remain accessible. A few even went so far as to cut through the gate that had been installed earlier, hoping to enter the sealed area, but they were arrested for trespassing before they could reach the cave itself. Online groups formed, petitions were launched, but all efforts failed. Nutty Putty was closed for good, its tunnels now a sealed tomb. Since that day, no one has set foot inside the Nutty Putty Cave. The surface around the entrance has been reclaimed by brush and rock, with no indication of what lies beneath. For the outside world, the cave exists only in memory and in photographs taken before the sealing. In 2016, a film titled The Last Descent was released, dramatizing the events of that tragic Thanksgiving week. Then in 2025, a detailed virtual reality recreation of the cave was added to a game called Cave Crave. The game's narrated tour comes from a man named Brandon Kowalis, an experienced caver who was part of the rescue effort to save John Edward Jones. Through VR, anyone can now explore the passages and twists of Nutty Putty, except for the sealed section where Jones lies. The digital version is both a tribute and a warning, but the physical cave remains unresolved in a deeper sense. It is a place that can never again be experienced firsthand, a natural wonder turned into a grave. And for some, the question lingers. Was sealing the cave the right call, or did it erase a piece of human heritage? Let's reconstruct the timeline of John Edward Jones's final hours and examine the decisions that led to his death. This analysis is not about assigning blame, but about understanding how a series of small choices can cascade into catastrophe. Angle 1. The fatal shortcut. Jones and his 3 companions had split from the main group specifically to find the birth canal. This is a common practice among cavers, breaking into smaller teams to explore side passages. But in a labyrinth like Nutty Putty, with unmarked junctions and similar-looking openings, the risk of getting disoriented is high. Jones mistook an unmarked passage for the birth canal. The passage led to a dead end. At that point, a prudent caver would have turned back, reported the dead end, and rejoined the group. Instead, Jones saw a vertical crevice and decided to enter it head first. Why? Perhaps he thought it was a shortcut to the birth canal. Perhaps he was overconfident, having done similar squeezes before. What we know is that he did not first test the passage with his feet, nor did he have a rope or a partner to belay him. Caving safety protocol emphasizes never entering a downward tight passage head first unless you are certain of an exit. Jones's mistake was not the desire to explore. It was the lack of a backup plan. Angle 2, the physiology of inversion. Once Jones was stuck upside down, the clock began ticking. The human cardiovascular system cannot sustain an inverted posture for long. Blood pools in the head, causing intracranial pressure. The diaphragm is compressed by abdominal organs, reducing lung capacity. After about 27 hours, Jones's heart stopped. But why did the rescue fail? The pulley system that was rigged to pull him out was complex, but it was working against a severe angle and a very tight fit. When it snapped or slipped, it not only failed to extract him, but also jammed him deeper. This mechanical failure was a critical turning point. A different approach, perhaps using lubrication or carefully chipping away at the rock, might have succeeded, but the urgency and the remote location limited options. In the end, the combination of human physiology and unforgiving geology sealed his fate. Angle 3, the foreshadowing of past incidents. Nutty Putty had a long history of close calls, 4 rescues before 2009, warnings about the big slide, an estimated 5,000 visitors a year, with many entering at night and ignoring safety. The cave was already a magnet for trouble. The decision to reopen it in May 2009 with a registration system was meant to improve safety, but it could not eliminate the inherent risks of a narrow, slippery, unmarked maze. In a way, the tragedy was predictable. The only surprise was the specific location and the manner of death. This case is a stark reminder that when a natural feature becomes a popular attraction, the line between adventure and disaster is thin. Each decision, where to go, how to proceed, when to turn back, carries weight. Jones made a single, irreversible choice, and the cave, which had claimed only near misses before, finally took a life. The Nutty Putty Cave is gone. In its place stands a concrete seal, a grave marker, and a story that continues to circulate among cavers and true crime enthusiasts. For the family of John Edward Jones, the closure of the cave brought a kind of finality. Their son and brother would rest undisturbed in the place he loved to explore. But for the caving community, the sealing remains controversial. Some see it as a necessary safety measure. Others mourn the loss of a unique geological site. As for the digital recreation, it offers a strange solace. The cave lives on in pixels and polygons, navigable without risk. But every time someone puts on a VR headset and crawls through a virtual Nutty Putty, they are walking in the footsteps of a man who made a fatal mistake. And perhaps that is the most powerful lesson of all, that our thirst for discovery must always be tempered with caution. Next time, we'll look at another place where the boundaries between life and death blurred, and where the ground itself became the final witness. If this story stayed with you, do me a favor. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new mystery. Leave a like if it gave you chills, and tell me down in the comments what you believe really happened. I'll see you in the next one.